up, everybody? It's Tyler McLaren from the HESN Football Podcast. Back at you guys for another episode of some good football talk, and thanks for joining me today. This is the inaugural playoff edition of the season for the HESN Football Podcast. Always our favorite time of year in the football season in NCAFA and with the House Edge Sports Network. So we'd like to welcome everyone to the playoff season here in Ottawa. Great year so far of football in our nation's capital. We say it every week. This is a football town, and it gets proven week after week with how much support we really get for the sport in the city. What a game by the Red Blacks last week. I know they lost 38-35 there to Toronto, but spectacular football game. One of the best football games I've seen in a long time in any league. I wish they could have pulled out the victory, but at the end of the day, it was a good effort, and it took a spectacular play by the flying Hawaiian, and this time he was literally flying, and he made a great play, the one-handed snag there in the end zone to secure the victory for the Toronto Argonauts against the Ottawa Red Blacks. But good on the Red Blacks for showing up. They've clinched a playoff spot, if anyone doesn't know that yet. So they are going to be playing in the playoffs. Now the question is, are we going to get a home game? Are we going to have a home game, playoff game in the CFL for the Ottawa Red Blacks? So that is really exciting stuff to potentially have a home game at TD Place for all the great fans in Ottawa to go support our team. I'm really hoping that can happen. I haven't been able to make it out to a game this year, but I would try to be involved with that playoff game, whether it be going out somewhere or something of that nature. But good on the Red Blacks for that. OUA, great job by the Carleton Ravens in also securing their first playoff berth since, I don't even freaking know, whenever the last time they made the playoffs was. It was a long time ago. This is only their third year back in the OUA since their reincarnation, one might say. But really proud and really happy that the Carleton Ravens were able to put it all together, win some big games, including the Panda game and the game against Toronto, which turned out to be huge victories. And they clinched a spot, and they have a bye week this week. And after that, they have a huge, the biggest game, I think, of their entire existence against the Guelph Griffins next week. And the reason I believe that it's the most important game that the Carleton Ravens football team have played since they've come back is because this is a real opportunity to really put their foot down and let people know that they're here for real. It's not just like, we're going to make the playoffs and we're happy about it. Guelph's coming off. They lost to Queens. And I know Guelph they have another game this week. I don't know who they play, but they have a game this week. Carleton has a bye. If Carleton could come out and beat Guelph, Carleton could get the third seed in the OUA. I think Western and McMaster will be 1 and 2. Well, I know they'll be 1 and 2. So Carleton's either fighting for the third, fourth, or fifth seed, which is all a possibility. If they lose to Guelph, they have an opportunity. They could still be 4, and they would play Laurier or who was the other team that they would play? It would be Laurier or Queens. So they really want to make sure that they stay in the 3 or 4 seed. If Carleton were to lose to Guelph, they would put them with a record of 5 and 3, and the Queens Golden Gales, who is the team right below them in the standings, who also have a victory against them, which would be the tiebreaker. Don't forget, they have Queens this week. They have York this week. That's going to be a guaranteed victory, because York is terrible. So Queens will play York. They'll get a victory this week. They're also going to be 5 and 2. And then next week, Queens has Laurier. Now that's a really interesting matchup. I believe that really Carleton wants to maintain the destiny control in their own hands. If the Carleton Ravens beat the Guelph Griffins and the Queens Golden Gales beat York and then beat Laurier, it doesn't matter. Carleton will still be, you know what? That's not true. As I'm doing the math right now, even if Carleton wins and Queens win both their games, it doesn't matter because they would have a tiebreaker. Yes, that is right. So there is lots at stake here. Queens beat Guelph. Guelph hasn't played Carleton yet, but they will. And Queens beat Carleton. So basically, Carleton needs to beat Guelph and Queens needs to lose to Laurier. Now, for all those things to happen, you can't really worry about it right now. But at the end of the day, it's really exciting for the Carleton Ravens to be in the playoffs, and I cannot wait to see what they can do. I think with the athletes that they have and the way they've been playing, that they can contend with every team other than Western and McMaster, who I think are far and above every other team in the OUA. But that's just my opinion. So good on Carleton Ravens. Can't wait to watch them in the playoffs. As for the other Ottawa football team, the U Ottawa GGs, it's been a real tough go last little while. They got absolutely destroyed by the Wilfrid Laurier Golden Hawks. That was a 65-30 victory. Don't know what happened there, but nonetheless, they're out of the running. Looks like their year's done, and they're not going to be in the playoffs this year, which is disappointing for everyone there. I know they had high hopes and some real big expectations, and they were hoping some guys could step up and maybe allow this team to take the next step, maybe make some noise in the playoffs, but that didn't happen. Interesting to see what happens next year with some of their players and some of their coaching staff. Who knows? When you have a season like that with the expectations they had, you never know what could happen there. Another little thing I wanted to mention in regards to the Laurier Golden Hawks was my boy and one of our favorite players coming out of Ottawa, Kurleigh Gins Jr. He had his first touchdown this week, so I want to give him a shout out right there. Unbelievable to see this kid playing. I think he's one of the best talents to come out of the city in a long, long time. I was surprised that there weren't more schools, especially some of the local ones that were taking a look at him. He's been at Laurier from all accounts. It's been great. He's been involved in every game, and I love seeing it. So good on you, Kurleigh, man. I'll be cheering for you in the playoffs. Even if you're against Carleton, I'll be cheering for you personally, not your team specifically. Another guy I wanted to shout out in the OUA is John Bewald. He is one of the guys that EPA, Elite Performance Academy, has been working with over the past few years, and we featured him on The Difference during the off-season, taking a look at what this kid has been doing to try to make himself a prospect for the CFL. Now, all he's done is contribute to the best defense in the OUA. He has 5.5 sacks, probably only playing roughly half of the game. And I expect that this guy is going to have an unbelievable playoffs. I think Western is really angry with the way that sort of ended for them the last few years. I think they're on a tear, and I think guys like John Bewald are going to be able to help them and get them to that next level. So we're cheering you on, John, and congratulations so far on a successful season. 5.5 sacks, just behind the leader who is at 6. So it's exciting to see guys who really put in the extra effort in the offseason. You see it pay off on the football field. That's always really great to see. Another guy, the last guy I want to show, not in the OUA, but he's out in the AU Atlantic Conference, Brad Herbst for St. Mary's. Unfortunately, St. Mary's, another tough year. They are young and building, but he has 28.5 tackles, 1.5 sacks in 5 games played. His first year starting. He's third in the whole conference in tackles, so great on him for playing hard. Again, another guy that you see put in the extra effort, really, really, really work hard, completely transformed his body. Listen to all the things that Pat and Donnie were telling him, and that's what you get when you listen to guys like that at Elite Performance Academy, and you see how these guys are doing that trained with them. It's a great thing to see. So shout out to all those guys on successful regular seasons, and we hope that the guys who will be competing in the playoffs will have an opportunity to contribute and play some meaningful games for your teams. Now we're going to jump over to the Ottawa Sooners. After we check out what's going on in the OUA, mention a little bit of Red Blacks. We're going to take a look at the Ottawa Sooners. Again, another successful year for the Ottawa Sooners. John Buck doing a great job there. All the players. It's been awesome. They're 5-2. I was hoping that their website would be updated with a few more stats and the updates of the last few games. It isn't, but as always, it's not. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'm just excited that the Sooners are going to be playing in the playoffs. I was doing a bit of math, and it looks like they're going to be playing Hamilton. The only thing we don't know is where the game's going to be. Now, they each, I believe, must have one more game left. I know the Sooners do, and it's this weekend, Saturday night, October 17th, 7 p.m. at Carleton University. And what's really interesting about the Sooners is that they've had some injuries, and they've had guys have to come and step up and play well, and we're really excited to see what they can do in the playoffs. So good luck to the Ottawa Sooners. and John Buck and the boys doing a great job there. So those are the teams that we always take a look at. They have been doing a great job, and we really want to give everyone a congratulations for a season, made it all the way through, and we'll be keeping an eye on in the playoffs, Carleton Ravens and Ottawa Sooners trying to make some splash in each of their respective leagues. Now, I mentioned earlier that this was the inaugural playoff podcast for this season. So what we're going to do before we go into the matchups of the playoffs, we're going to start with the final power rankings, and then we'll talk about how it all shapes up leading into the Bantam and Midget playoffs. We're going to start with Midget just because it won't take that long. I'll make my predictions for the Midget division. Basically, nothing's changed. The best team are the Nepean Eagles. They have been doing an outstanding job coaching up the kids, playing hard, keeping focused, even though the games that they've played really aren't competitive because they're so deep, and they got such a great coaching staff. They do such a great job making sure that all the kids are focused in and ready to do their job. So the Nepean Eagles are still the number one team, and right behind them, a large gap between the two teams, but the next team is clearly the Norsemen. Again, great coaching staff, great bunch of kids. They just don't have that depth that the Eagles have. You know, you look at the Eagles team at every position, they got someone that's a playmaker doing a great job. But the Norsemen, what they have, they're a big physical team, and they can dominate every single other team in the league. The only problem is they get up with the Eagles and they can be out physicaled. Now, that's not to say that the Norsemen can't find it within them and find a way to win and out physical the Eagles. But I do think that if they play 10 times, I would pick the Eagles to win 9 of them. That's how good I think the Eagles are compared to the rest of the teams in the Midget division. The third ranked team, it is the Ottawa Stamps. They are the third best team. They've been playing really well. They've dominated a few guys the last few weeks, so that's really good. And right after them, Rideau Redblacks. Those are the top 4 teams. I don't think the other teams will make to the playoffs, so I think it's just going to be those 4. I think the Eagles will dominate the Rideau Redblacks. I think the Norsemen and Stamps will be a really close game. I think that the Stamps were a little bit upset with how the last game finished between them. I think it was a 22-3 game between them, and they weren't happy. The Stamps were not happy. I know that about their effort. So I believe they're going to come out, and it's going to be a really hard-fought, close game. I do think the Norsemen will pull through, and I think the Eagles and the Norsemen will face off in the championship. The Midget Championship is a great football game. Every single year, it doesn't matter. It's a great game. The last 2 years, just all I can remember, the last 2 years have been some of the best football games I've seen of the NCAFA season. So let's keep an eye on how the playoffs roll out. The Midget guys have one more week of the regular season. Last weekend, they had their showcase on Thanksgiving Monday. So if anyone was out there, they saw that. Unfortunately for that showcase, there wasn't a ton of competitive games that day. Unfortunately, the way the schedule worked out, we weren't able to get the Eagles and the Norsemen or the Norsemen and the Stamps matching up. So there were a few lopsided games, but definitely some great performances by a lot of the athletes out there in NCAFA. And I think it was a great job. Obviously, the weather was spectacular. So it was a good day of football. We'll be having those highlights be coming out in the next couple days. But that's the Midget division. My prediction is that the Eagles will play the Norsemen in the championship game, and I believe the Eagles will beat the Norsemen, something along the lines of 40 to 10, 40 to 20, something around there. But it's going to be a great game, so make sure when the time comes and that championship game happens that you guys check it out. Now we're going to go and check out the Pee Wee division. Last week I was able to check out the unbelievable matchup between the Panthers and the Warriors, who are the 1 and the 2 seed in the power rankings and in the playoffs, respectively. It was an unbelievable game. I think the final score was 48-20, but there were plays happening all over the field. I couldn't believe the level of play from these Pee Wee teams. Coach Karate and Coach Polito, even though Coach Polito wasn't there in that game because of a family commitment, but they have got those guys playing at an unbelievable level for 13 and 14 years old. Coach Karate has got that quarterback and those receivers and the whole team playing unbelievable. I just can't stress that enough, how good that game was. You can go to necafit.tv and check out the highlight, or go to YouTube and go to HESN, check out that highlight. But these are Pee Wee football. This is 13 and 14, and we're talking long bums over the middle, splitting the coverage. We're talking changing the play to the line of scrimmage and throwing a smoke screen and a guy ducking and dodging and finding a way to get into the end zone. We had huge defensive plays. We had unbelievable catches in the end zone. We had 85-yard touchdown runs, punt returns. It was unbelievable. It was a great game. I believe that's going to be an A-Cup matchup. I think that the Panthers are on another level. I really, really do. Their quarterback is really good. They have a couple great receivers, 25 and 85. They have running backs coming at you from all levels. Their defense is aggressive. They just are a really, really great team. And that's taken nothing away from the Warriors, who are equally as great. The only factor with the Warriors that I don't see is I don't see their quarterback being such a playmaker as the Cumberland Panthers. The quarterback for Bell Warriors is a very, very good quarterback. He made some great throws. He gets back in the pocket. He settles his feet. He's a real natural thrower. It comes out of his hand properly. He delivers it in a tight spiral and accurately. But he just doesn't have that athleticism X factor like Christian has for the Panthers. I see Christian, he can run around in the pocket, he can get out there when he has to. Christian reminds me of the skill set of Aaron Rodgers. He can deliver the ball quickly, he gets it out of his hands really quick, yet he has that athleticism to sort of get out of the pocket, make a play so that people always think about it, yet they're not really running plays for him. But the kid's really special. So that's going to be great. I got the Bengals and the Knights. They're the next two teams in the power rankings. And what's funny about that is I believe that, if I'm not mistaken, the Knights and the Bengals are going to be playing in the first round of the playoffs. We'll get to those matchups a little later, but that is some great stuff right there. The rest of the teams at the Pee Wee division that I think have an opportunity to make a big dent in the playoffs are the 7th ranked team and the 6th ranked team. That's the Raiders and the Eagles. Now, both of those teams have had some good victories in the last few weeks, and I really believe that they are very, very dangerous opponents. So keep an eye on those two teams. Again, we'll get into those two teams a little more when we just quickly review the playoff matchups coming up this weekend. But it's going to be really, really good. That's the quick update on the Pee Wee division. It's really quick because the Panthers and the Warriors are the guys that are going to meet in the A-Cup final. I'm predicting that right now. Now we get to the Bantam. Now, a lot has happened in the last week and a half, it seems, in the Bantam division. There have been some real change in the standings. Well, not really, but there's been shifts that I wasn't prepared for. Let's put it that way. As you all saw a couple weeks ago, West Carleton Wolverines, they ended up losing to the Myers Riders. Myers Riders played a heck of a game. They really, really played well. They really showed me that they're not to be forgotten. I think a lot of people sort of, in the last year or two, have sort of forgotten, in NCAFA at least, how powerful and how dominant Myers really can be when they get their offense going. We all know their offense. Load up a line of scrimmage, get a big bunch of maulers down there. They run the ball well right. They run the ball well left. They'll use that counter, and then they'll boot off of it. And they do a great job of it. You know what's coming, and you just can't stop it. And I was really, really excited to see that game because they played so well. And it was two great teams playing against each other. I know West Carleton wanted to win that one so bad, and they almost did. They came back. They tied it up, I believe, and right after they tied it up, Myers went down, scored a touchdown. So it was really, really great. So that's altered the landscape of the power rankings of the Bantam division. And Bel Air and the Bengals, they were number 2 and number 3 on the power rankings last week, and they're also going to be meeting in the playoffs. Now we'll talk about that a little bit after. But last week we had West Carleton number 1, we had Bel Air number 2, we had the Bengals number 3, and we had Myers number 4. Then we had the Rito Red Blacks at 5, the Panthers at 6, the Warriors at 7, and the Raiders at 8. Now, to say that that was right, well, that's the great thing about power rankings. You always get an opportunity to adjust it because you get to fix it next week. Now, the one thing I will say is that all those 8 teams are the 8 playoff teams, so that's definitely good. There are some adjustments in the power rankings. Now, I will say, in my opinion, right now, if I were to pick one team that I think has the best chance to make a splash in the playoffs, I got to say the Myers Riders are the ones that impressed me the most so far. They're big and they're physical. I think that if their quarterback can keep playing the way he's been playing, they have a chance to do some big things. I saw some holes in West Carleton's game. I saw that they weren't able to run the ball effectively. They weren't able to push that line of Myers and really be able to control the line of scrimmage. And I think that's going to be a problem when the weather gets cold and they're not going to be able to do some of those things they've been successful with all year. Now, that's not to say they regroup and they play well, but I wasn't impressed with how they ran the ball that game. I was expecting to see the team do a better job. But you know what? Myers is a good team. So now the team that's going to rise in my power rankings a bit this week, actually a lot this week, is the Bell Warriors, because they played their best game of the year against the Cumberland Panthers at Millennium Field on Saturday. The Bell Warriors were ranked 7 in the power rankings. I'm bumping them all the way up to 5 right now. I'm putting the Rideau Red Blacks at 6, the Panthers will be at 7, and the Raiders will stay at 8. The Bell Warriors showed me that when they put their minds to it, and when their team plays as a team and they focus in, they can beat anybody. They lost to Myers 7-6. They got obliterated by the West Carleton Wolverines, but I just think that was a bad matchup. They haven't played the Bengals yet. They lost to the Rideau Red Blacks in a close game. They can handle any team. So I'm really excited to see what they can do in the playoffs. Now, speaking about playoffs, we're going to talk about playoffs right now. And we're going to start at the Bantam Division where we are. Now, the first matchup that we're going to talk about is we are going to talk about the Rideau Red Blacks versus the Bell Warriors. I think that this is a very interesting matchup. They both play different styles of football. The Rideau Red Blacks, very physical, very big. I call it American style. They don't have a tight end, I don't think, all the time, but it looks like they have a tight end, and they're not. It's not that Canadian style with people running all over the place and all that type of stuff. It looks very structured and very simple, yet effective. And I think that's their greatest strength. I think that they do what they do and they do it well. And they don't worry about trying to trick you. They worry about punching you in the face. And sometimes in the playoffs, that is the way you win. So I'm excited to see that. The Warriors, on the other hand, I think are the exact opposite of that. And that's why this is such an intriguing matchup. I think the Bell Warriors are one of the most skilled teams in all of Bantam football. Their quarterback, when he wants to play, he's still a young guy. He's still learning. He's got another year next year, but he can play football. And he's an extremely skilled player. He can throw, he can run. He made some huge plays. You can go to NCAFA.tv, check it out. But he did some wonderful things last week. They have number 23 at running back, who's an unbelievable talent. He makes plays all over the field. He's done it all year. Number 12, he's ice cold, okay? Every time he touches the ball late in games, he's taking it to the house, and he's finding ways to win the game. And that is what you need in the playoffs. You need guys making big plays. And on defense, number 59, number 44, these guys are consistently around the ball, making tackles, but they're not going to beat you with size. They're not going to beat you by punching you in the mouth. How the Bell Warriors will beat you is they're going to dance around you and they're going to jab you. They're going to fight a little bit like Floyd Mayweather. They're going to bounce around. They're going to try to not take the big punch. They're going to try to bend and then turn the ball over and get it to the offense and make some plays. And I think that's going to be a great matchup. I am going to make predictions in all the playoff games today, and I am predicting that the Bell Warriors will win this football game on the road, mind you, all the way in Commonwealth, which I'm assuming is in Brockville. So the Bell Warriors will win this football game. I think it's going to be 31-15. And I think that the reason I think the Warriors are going to be able to score 31 points is because I think James Keenan is going to have a great game. I think the whole offense is going to really click. I think they're going to continue that momentum that they gained against the Panthers last week, move it into the playoffs, and I think that the Bell Warriors will win that game. And after they win that game, who knows what can happen, but I'm picking the Bell Warriors to win 31-15 against the Rideau Red Blacks. The next game we're going to talk about two games that I think are going to be relative blowouts. But we'll quickly talk about the Panthers and the Riders. Again, I think this is a very, very bad matchup for the Panthers. The Myers Riders are extremely big. They're extremely physical, and they definitely have the mind control over the Cumberland Panthers. The Cumberland Panthers just can't beat the Myers Riders ever when it matters. And I believe that the fact that the Riders are so big, so physical, they run the ball well, I think they're going to just maul the Cumberland Panthers what I saw from the Carleton Panthers was a bunch of great athletes, tons of talent, tons of heart, but not a lot of size, not a lot of depth. And I believe that will come back to bite them in the butt. I think that game is going to be around 41-15, something like that, 40-20. Maybe that's giving them too much. Let's say 40-10. And I think that the Myers Riders will run the ball. They'll do what they do well. They'll connect on a few big plays. I can see Willie breaking a few for Cumberland. Don't worry, I see you. But I just believe that it's not a good matchup for the Panthers, and I believe the Myers Riders will win that game. The next game, West Carleton versus the Raiders. I think that's a very similar to the Panthers and Riders matchup. I think the West Carleton Wolverines are a big and physical team, and I think they're going to match up with the Raiders, who seem to me like a bit of a skill-based team. It's going to be another 35-10 victory for the Wolverines, something around that range. A few touchdowns, and I think that it's going to be a great effort by the Raiders. They've been sort of that team this year that's sort of been on the edge. You know, they have 1 week that's really good, 1 week that's not so good, but you know that means they got some good players, and that means that you never know who's going to show up. Who knows what's going to happen? I predict the West Carleton Wolverines will win that game relatively easily. The game that we're really going to focus on, though, in this little segment about the playoffs is we're really going to focus on the Bengals versus the Lions. This is going to be the game of the year up to this point. I know we always say that every week, the game of the year. But this really is going to be the game of the year. The reason this is going to be the game of the year is for 3 reasons, okay? And I'll list them out to you relatively easily. Number 1 is because I believe that these two teams are the most dangerous teams in the playoffs. They may not be the quote-unquote number 1 ranked, like I said, but they are probably the most dangerous teams. I think they have the most potential to be the best teams. I think number 2, their second reason, they played a few weeks ago, it was a 19-17 victory for the Lions. It was extremely close. The Lions had home field advantage, so it was really a huge win for them. And the third reason is because these two teams really didn't seem to like each other. And there was a lot of, I don't want to say shenanigans because there really wasn't any cheap shots, but it was a physical game. And these guys really took it to each other. And I remember being there on the field and feeling those hits, and it was great stuff. So the Bengals are playing the Lions this week. You know what? Before I get going here, I'm going to double check and make sure. I'm assuming that it's going to be in the East because, yeah, it is. It's in Orleans because the Bengals finished as the 2nd seed in the East. They will get to host the game against the Lions, which could be the deciding factor in this matchup. As I said, last time they played, the Lions had home field advantage. They won 19-17. This week, the Bengals have home field at Garneau High School. I know Garneau very well. We all know that it's built on an ancient Indian burial ground because the weirdest stuff always happens there. Great games happen consistently there. So I'm really excited to be there. I personally will be at that game on Sunday, 1 o'clock at Garneau High School. It's going to be spectacular. Now I'm going to break down each team a little bit because I know them, not by name specifically, but by number. We're going to start with the Bengals. I think, like I said, that they have unbelievable amounts of potential. They have the best player in Bantam football, arguably Keon Williams. Unbelievable running back. You have to contain him. If you don't contain him, they're going to lose by 3 or 4 touchdowns. Because if he gets going and he gets excited and he does his thing, he cannot be stopped. They also got big number 33. Okay, this boy, he is an unbelievable athlete. I've never seen a big man move like he moves. I find the trouble with him is they don't really know where to use him. They have him in a running back. They can't give him the ball as much as they probably would like to based on his skill set because he's blocking for Keon. But that's the other thing he does. He's a great blocker, and he's the guy that also opens the holes for Keon. So those are the running game for the Bengals is going to be huge. They got Lake Corte Moore. Okay, he's a great defensive end. He will not allow anyone to get around him 99% of the time. He's also been playing quarterback. And to be honest with you guys, he's been doing a darn good job. He runs a little bit of that wishbone option. He can throw the ball a little bit. I would like to see him throw the ball shorter more often because actually he puts it where it needs to be. Doesn't look great, but it gets there. And it's a spiral, and it gets to the guy that needs to get it. So I'm excited to see this game. For the Lions, it starts with Shane Paquette. This kid is the sort of the energizer bunny of the team. He makes the team roll. He's the guy that gets everyone fired up. He makes big hits on defense. He makes big plays on special teams. He's the guy that's going to need to sort of kickstart this thing. But their quarterback, I don't know his name. I think it's Braden, if I'm not mistaken. But the quarterback for the Bel Air Lions is going to be the key on offense. I don't know anyone on that Bel Air offense that's more important than their quarterback. And he's able to run the read option very nicely. He's able to ride the running back, be patient with the ball, and when he sees an opening, he pulls it and he gets yards. And he's not trying to show off when he gets yards. He gets the first down and he gets out of bounds. Now, he does like to show off, this guy. I like it. I like his bravado. I like his energy. We saw in the game a month ago when he scored a touchdown. He spiked the ball when he won the game. I know coaches don't like it and refs don't like it and presidents don't like it, but we as fans, I love it. And I love the bravado that he plays with. I love the attitude that this kid plays with. I'm really excited to see what they can do. Where I'm going to say the biggest matchup will be is because these two coaching staffs are great coaching staffs. Both of these guys, both groups of coaches are both good groups. And they're going to be battling wits again for the second time in 3 weeks. And I think that's going to be the game of the week. My prediction, I'm not going to make anyone happy with this prediction, so I'm going to have to go to it. But my prediction is I do believe that the Bel Air Lions will find a way to get it done. I cannot bet against the champs. I just can't. They proved me wrong all last year, and I believe that they will find a way, and the X factor will be that quarterback there. I think it's going to be 20-17, okay? 20-17 victory for the Lions over the Bengals. I think they're going to find a way to contain Kian through scheme. It's not going to be a physical containment. It's going to be a scheme containment. They're going to be able to limit his big plays. He might get some yards, but I don't believe he'll break the big one, which is the key. They will make sure they keep him contained. So those are my predictions. I got the Lions win in 2017. I got the Wolverines beating the Raiders handily. I got the Riders beating the Panthers handily. And I got the Warriors squeaking out a win against the Rito Red Blacks. So that means Warriors, Riders, Wolverines, and Lions are going to be the 4 teams playing in a week's time in I guess that would be the semifinals of the NCAFA Bantam season. I've already made my quick predictions on the midget. Pee-wee, I already mentioned it. I don't believe there's anyone that can come close to what the Warriors and what the Cumberland Panthers are doing. So we got Cumberland Panthers, Bell Warriors at the Pee-wee. I think that's going to be the A Cup. I'm saying it right now. At Bantam, I'm not going to go to the championship because we're only going to go to the semifinals. Because if the Warriors, the Riders, the Wolverines, and the Lions win, we're going to have some and those are all West teams, by the way. I didn't do that on purpose. But I believe we're going to have some unbelievable matchups next weekend, so I can't wait to see that happen. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions win, if the Bengals win. So I don't want people in Orleans to be hating on me. Okay, I love you guys. I love everyone. But sometimes the people in the behind the microphone, they've got to put their money where their mouth is, and I'm putting it down, and I'm not ashamed to put it down. All I really want is good games. That's all we want here at HESN. We just want to make sure that no one gets injured. We want to make sure the referees do a great job and don't affect the game. And we want to make sure that the kids have a great time and move on the right way. So those are my playoff predictions. This has been an awesome show. I know it's just been me. You guys have been listening to me talk for the last half hour, but I do appreciate everyone sticking with it this week and listening to the HESN Football Podcast inaugural playoff edition for the 2015 NCAFA season. Again, do not forget, I didn't mention it earlier, and I'm disappointed I didn't, but on Friday, October 30th at HESN headquarters, Jesse and I are going to be holding the next number 2 event for all HESN athletes. Now, this is open to anybody. If you're an athlete, we want you to come. We're going to have a lot of great stuff for you. But we also want to make sure that every single person that is interested in becoming an HESN athlete comes on in. We're going to have, it's going to be at night, so we'll have some pops and we'll have some pizza or whatever. It's going to be an awesome event. We're going to be taking a look at another prep school. We're going to be talking with Pat Woodcock and Donnie Ruiz about some of the training stuff that they've been doing. You can get a little bit of glimpse of what we're doing there. It's going to be a fantastic event, and we would love for hundreds of people to show up. Okay? It's Friday night, October 30th. Don't tell me that you guys don't have the time. This is what I know is happening. I know that on November 1st, we have championship weekend. I know on 31st, we have Halloween. So on the 30th, I expect tons of people to come. There's no excuses, guys. It's open. It's going to be open from 5 o'clock. Doors open at 5 o'clock. We're going to be open till 9 or 10 o'clock at night. If people want to come later, that's fine. We're here for you guys. Don't forget, Friday, October 30th, that is the next event for HESN. And again, forget about the event right now. Anyone that's interested in becoming an HESN member, parents, kids, contact us. Okay, HESN is trying to find ways to help kids use this wonderful sport of football and any other sport, but right now we're talking about football, to try to further their lives. Try to set a path that they can walk on and not feel that they're being led in the wrong direction. We want to make sure that kids are getting the proper advice. And what we've done here at House Edge Media is created the House Edge Sports Network. And through the House Edge Sports Network, we're going to connect kids and parents and families to the people that are going to give you and your kids the best advice. That's what we're all about, and we are so excited with what we've achieved this year. And it's all because of you guys supporting the podcast, watching all the videos, listen to Jesse and I rant about football and what we think is good and bad and all that stuff. It's really you guys are the ones that keep this going. So I want to thank everyone for tuning in to this episode of the HESN Football Podcast. We will be back next week, earlier in the week, I promise. And we're going to be really breaking down what happened this week in the playoffs. And we'll be previewing what will happen in the semifinal weekend. And also, we'll be taking a look at what Carleton and the Sooners will be doing going into next week. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. I'm Tyler McLaren from House Edge Media. This is the HESN Football Podcast. I'm out of here. Peace.